Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And we return to this very, very, very important subject, which is constantly growing in importance, the war on Iran. And this is our third comment on the war on Iran. And today's comment is entitled War on Iran, the Nuclear Option. And we want to begin by holding the view, explaining to you that we believe that this war was planned long ago in advance. And there are many things which have occurred in international affairs which are linked to this war, which was planned in advance. The new American government, which is like an unguided missile, firing off here, there, skelter everywhere, has a certain design and plan behind this erratic behavior. The change in policy of the American government from Biden to Trump is connected with this war in Iran, namely an accommodating view towards Russia, and therefore towards Russia's oil and Russia's gas and Russia's fertilizers. The American government did not perceive the Ukraine-Russian war to be so important as to stand in the way of Israel's interests. And then there was the war on Venezuela. It was not essentially to bring about regime change in Venezuela. I was deceived. I was deceived, yes. And the whole world was deceived. No. They didn't want so much regime change in Venezuela. They wanted control over Venezuela's oil because they knew what was coming up in the future when the war takes place on Iran. The war on Iran was not only planned in advance, but there was a basic objective that they seek to achieve. And I have mentioned already, number one, the removal of the nuclear threat, that Iran is not allowed to become a nuclear power. And number two, and more importantly, is how to advance the agenda for the establishment of Pax Judaica. Now I want today in this third session to expand on what I've done before in order to provoke my students to think. And the problem is that so many of them are now thinking, and they are writing essays and writing books, and all these essays and books are coming to me. Yes, and I don't have time to read even only small emails, short emails I can read. I can't read all these long emails and all these long books, so I have to disappoint them. But it's a good sign. It's a wonderful sign. It's a repudiation of the model of scholarship of the Darul Uloom that we now have so many thinkers amongst us. That's a good sign. I am happy that my seeds that I've been planting now are showing fruits growing up. Yes, mashallah. So now then, in order to ensure that Iran never becomes a nuclear armed state, I believe, I hope I am wrong, but I believe that a bombing of nuclear plants and bombing of military sites on Iran from the sky will not be enough to ensure that Iran would never become a nuclear-powered state. I am suspecting now that eventually the United States is going to land troops in Iran. That is why so many ships are moving towards Iran with large contingents of soldiers. Yeah. But in addition to a land invasion of Iran to seek to take control of the neck, to choke Iran into submission, I believe I hope I'm wrong. I believe that the United States is going to use nuclear weapons in order to bomb the nuclear sites to ensure that the nuclear fuel, which is buried underneath the earth, can never be retrieved. In the event that the United States uses nuclear weapons against Iran, then it becomes impossible, I believe I'm correct, for Iran to continue as a member state of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. And that Iran will then proceed towards becoming a nuclear armed state. We have been saying this to Iran for 15 years or more now, and they've never listened to us. They've always been comfortable with the fatwa given, I believe, by Imam Khomeini, rahimahullah. And we have respect for the fatwa. It shows a lot of moral rectitude in that fatwa. We don't despise the fatwa at all. No. It shows a sense of moral excellence in that fatwa. But we turn to the Quran and to Surah Al-Anfal, where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has commanded us, Ba'a'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, A'iddu lahum mastata'tum min quwwa وَمِنْ رِبَاطِ الْخَيْلِ تُرْهِبُونَ بِهِ عَدُوَّ اللَّهِ وَعَدُوَّكُمْ. That you must build power to the maximum extent that you can possibly build it, in order that your power might function as a deterrent, not as an aggressor, not to challenge and to attack and to pose a threat to others, not at all. You are acquiring a nuclear power in order to protect yourself, to be a deterrent. The United States is a nuclear power, but nobody seems to be bothered about criticizing the United States for that. Russia is a nuclear power. China is a nuclear power. Nobody criticizes Russia and China for being a nuclear power. France is a nuclear power. Britain is a nuclear power. Nobody criticizes France and Britain for being nuclear powers. India and Pakistan and Korea are nuclear powers. Nobody criticizes them, except Korea, of course. They can't manage it. But nobody criticizes India as a nuclear power and China and Pakistan as a nuclear power. So why is it that you put all of your criticisms and all your objections against Iran? No, it doesn't make sense, and there's no need for Iran to bother about those who are opposing it. And I hope and I pray that good sense will prevail and Iran will accept this interpretation or explanation of the Quran in the days which lie ahead of us. In the event that nuclear weapons are not used, already there is sufficient justification for Iran to get out of the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, exit it. But if a nuclear weapon is used, then the Iranian people will demand of the government and of the Rahbar. There's nothing they can do. They have to accept, because that will be the demand of the Iranian people. If a nuclear weapon is ever used against Iran, Iran will automatically be exiting from the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty, and the blame for that will be Trump. Will Iran be able to acquire nuclear weapons without a nuclear plant and all these things? Answer, they are friends in the world. I need not say anymore. They're friends in the world. That's all I need to say. Now then, if a land invasion of Iran takes place, then American soldiers are going to be killed. The method of military strategy adopted by Trump and the American government at this time is called hit and run. Hit and run. But hit and run requires you to be there on the ground for only a brief period of time and then fly out. But you cannot take control of any of the islands in the Gulf of Hormuz without a ground invasion, and then the troops have to remain there to control it. And that involves risk of life, and there'll be many, many Americans who will die. And the Americans are going to ask themselves, why are we dying for Israel's sake? There's going to be a backlash against Trump and against his government in the United States of America. And we already see that backlash has already begun. And so a ground invasion of the islands in the Gulf of Hormuz is going to cost the Americans a very high price in terms of domestic repercussions. And there's also the embarrassment that Iran might succeed in inflicting such horrendous punishments, such horrendous damage and destruction upon American troops, that this aura of invincibility will be shattered. And so we are looking forward to a future which is perilous. And we are looking forward to see this erratic, unguided missile, which has now become the United States of America, taking itself to its own destruction.